All right, Nate, the nightcap for tonight. Let's finish up with that one. Obviously, we got Memphis, Minnesota. One more game in Minnesota here. Game 4. Game 3 was wild, dude. I don't know what to say about it. It was wild. I have some thoughts on how I think it's relevant and how it'll impact what we see here moving forward in terms of some game theory, some game strategy from these coaches. But we've got a decently high total that I think that both of us are salivating at the prospect of betting an under on. So is that where you start here before looking at that 2.5 point spread?
If I have to bet on this wild card of a series, yes, I want the under once again, which hit very, very easily in the last two games. It's just because one of these two teams was just horribly inconsistent on offense. I do expect that to continue. I do think 232 is still too high in a playoff game, and that Memphis has figured out a lot of things on defense. It's just that they couldn't get their offense going early on against Minnesota. So we were going to go way under before they started going on that crazy comeback. I mean, it's interesting that the series now, Memphis in 5 is basically even money. Like, I guess the odds makers are kind of agreeing with our theory that just like the Grizz won the first and got swept out after that last year, they're going to do that to the Wolves. I don't know if I buy that, but I'm certainly not betting on Minnesota to cover what is now just +3 in this spot, because just from an X's and O's standpoint, Memphis has a lot of answers for their guys who are very limited. Interesting to just watch that game flow on Twitter, Josh, and just see once Memphis gets down 20, all the smoke starts to creep out about how, the Grizzlies regular season style doesn't work in the playoffs. Who cares if you have 11 guys if you can't play them in the playoffs? Well, they went to that depth. They unearthed Brandon Clark, Xavier Tillman, and just have shut down Cat in the last couple games. They've used a lot of Kyle Anderson on him too to just kind of take him out. And Anthony Edwards, also a 96 offensive rating since that amazing game 1. 1.5 assists, 3.5 turnovers. They let D'Angelo Russell get off early, but I think he's priority number 3. If they can contain those two guys up front, and they can if they don't even humor playing Steven Adams on Cat. I mean, Clark and Tillman can both do a pretty good job on him. I don't think he's going to be that bad again, or that that much of a backseat in terms of 17% usage rate these last two games. But yeah. Memphis, I mean, they got away with one with Ja Morant not even playing very well and coming back to win. And now I think they're going to be a little more free. Look, they got him in game 1 because of the rust. They almost got him in game 3 because it was an off night. But now they have the answers to the test. They're the stronger, faster, deeper team. And I do think, that they're going to win and probably keep it under just from their general ability to control the paint.
First of all, I feel a little bit seen. I literally have a memory in my head of like watching this game and it being 68-48 in the third quarter. And literally I remember thinking to myself, I guess their style of play doesn't work in the playoffs. Like 5.5 minutes later, it's like 81-all or whatever. So yes, I was dumb as well. Thank you, Nate, for calling us idiots out who thought that. And I thought it for a brief minute, but whatever. Point is first of all, I love Brandon Clark. I have loved Brandon Clark. I've been waiting for him to get a few more minutes because I do think that if you have, he's huge, dude. He's massive and he's super athletic and quick. That's what you need to guard Cat. You need to not foul Triple J, which is why you can't give Jaren Jackson Jr. a defensive player of the year nod because he can't stay in the game and he can't stop fouling. He's averaging like 4 a game at the end of the regular season, and then this series he's having trouble staying on the floor. Still, though, actually, to be honest, I'm also going to defend myself and the fellow idiots who said that depth isn't necessarily what you need in the playoffs. they did unearth Brandon Clark to a degree, but they also they put him in a position where now in 19 minutes in this series, he's a part of the lineup that is a plus 30 net rating, and it is the lineup that's played now the most minutes. So kudos to Taylor Jenkins because he realized that obviously he too has NBA.com advanced stats, and so he was able to figure out that his lineup, that has that best net rating, that's playing the best for him, that we'll just call the lineup of death for them because it is full of versatile small and not, I say small, but just shorter than centers, but still big for their positions. You've got Ja, Dylan Brooks, Desmond Bane, Triple J, and Brandon Clark. I haven't even talked about Desmond Bane yet, who obviously carried them on offense when they had nothing going. But that lineup right there is a plus 31 net rating. You could also throw slow-mo Kyle Anderson, who we was a huge fan of we're a fan of the show, is a fan of him. Let's put it that way. But you throw slow-mo in there and take out Brandon Clark. You still have a guy who can guard Cat pretty well and next to Triple J and allow Triple J to come off of his man rather than needing to guard Cat one-on-one. But yeah, there's still a plus 28 in about 12 minutes of playing with that same lineup I mentioned, but you put in Kyle Anderson, for Brandon Clark. So either way, the point is, and it's weird because we're about to talk about Steven Adams not getting a single second of play, a coach's decision to not play in that game 3 there. And it's because in game 1, his net rate, he was giving up everything to Cat. That's why Cat went off. Basically, it was just a guy that couldn't get in front of him and is too flat-footed and big. Then you enter Xavier Tillman to the point that you said they kind of unearthed him, but obviously he's been getting time all season as well. But either way, the point is like he comes in and he's guarded Cat for a combined about 4 minutes or so. More than that. I'm sorry, I misdid that. It was about 7.5 minutes that he's guarded Cat in the last 2 games that we mentioned. Cat just being awful and only having 4 shot attempts in the last one. And so he's been guarding him the most since that time. And he's only given up 2 field goal attempts and 2 points at the line in total, right? And 0 for 2 from the field, like 2 boards in that time as well, no assists, et cetera, right? So we know what the difference is here. If Cat's not giving them 25 points, man, like we don't know what to get from them. Love Ant. And you won't hear us say anything bad about Ant Edwards. We tried to take him his props in after we did take him in the first game, and he paid off with those 36 points. We should have listened to our own advice where we talk about how inconsistent he is because he's still young, and there's certain elements of the game that he hasn't gotten used to, right? Like the way that LeBron James eventually got to being the most efficient playoff scorer ever. He learned things and picked things up right away. If Ant was really looking at things really closely, he would continue driving. I'm never going to be mad at someone for going, roughly, I think it was like 4 for 10 from 3 again. But the problem is he wasn't getting other types of efficient shots, and he wasn't controlling the game outside of making some threes here and there. And that's really what they need because D'Lo's not that guy either. Despite hitting a few shots himself, he also took some really, really bad shots in moments that they needed to make sure they got a good bucket. And so, yeah, it's a team that plays well in spurts in terms of Minnesota. Really, really shown and personified by the way that Ant Edwards plays. It's just a little bit inconsistent on offense as of right now. I think he's going to continue to get better and smarter. But just it's playoff basketball right now. Taylor Jenkins is sort of outplaying Finch a bit, in my opinion, and it's in part because I think there's just too many guys to be able to throw at Cat because that great depth that they have.
Yeah, and when you said Desmond Bane was the only one to get it going for Memphis, that made me start to feel even better about the under. I mean, yeah, that if you cut Ja out of the paint, if you get Jaren Jackson Jr. off the floor because he can't stop fouling, then Memphis doesn't have a lot of ways to beat you from the perimeter, and that is the knock on them. It's not that their style isn't right for the playoffs; it's just that it's a bit one-dimensional. So I do like the under. I mean, you have a good note in here that they've gone under at 5 of their last 6 on the road, scoring 15 points per game and getting 5 fewer free throw attempts per game in that span. And those unders are against teams that are usually money for the over: the Hawks, Rockets, Jazz, and Wolves. And the Spurs. And so, yeah, I think we're going to see playoff basketball where we don't get to 232. I think you can tease it up with another game. There's plenty of options on Saturday slate. Check out all our videos to see what some of those best options are. I would do Mavs Jazz over 208 with that. Yeah. That sounds wonderful to me.
Yeah, no, I'm with that. And final thing I would say there, just a bit of game theory, because I did take the time to look this up, so I'm going to freaking say it. If you look at Game 3, there's some pretty big disparities in the pace. Because there's also huge disparities in the net rating. So I just want to go through that real quick, because what this is going to indicate is when this game is played at a slower pace, Memphis is better. And I know that sounds weird, because Memphis has had an offense that has been successful and fueled by points off turnovers, defensive rebounds, points in transition, and the like. But right now they're playing a team that is almost as good at that as they are. They're as athletic. They have similar types of guys that do similar types of things and similar types of versatility. So they also are but Memphis is a better version of it. They're just better overall. So they need to slow it down. If you look at the quarters 1 and 3 in the Game 3 there, right? Those were the quarters that Minnesota just dominated them. They had net ratings of plus 75 in the first quarter. They had a net rating of plus 30 in the third quarter. The pace was 94 and 106. Right, their pace in the second quarter, when Memphis had a plus 48 net rating, was a 92. And then you look at quarter 4 again in the fourth there, where it was a plus 52 net rating for Memphis, minus 52 for Minnesota, back down to a 94 pace. So that 106 pace in the third and about a 96 pace in the first, that was obviously an advantage for Minnesota there. And the reason that if Memphis is paying attention, which I trust Taylor Jenkins a ton, they are, they're going to continue to keep things slow, even though they are taking their slowest player, Steven Adams, off the floor at this point. And that is all the time that we have for you guys in this one and for these Saturday games here as we continue to roll along in the playoffs. As Nate mentioned a minute ago, make sure you are liked and subscribed so you continue to get all of these videos we're continuing to bring for you on the weekends as well. I saw my man David in there in the YouTube comments saying, please bring us weekend videos. We're coming through with what we said. So continue to follow along with us. And until we see you next, happy betting.